This is the S.J. Childs Show, hosted by S.J. Childs, streaming on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. Find us on all social medias. The S.J. Childs Show, bringing value to families through education and resources. Check us out weekly, where we'll have new and exciting guests. Thanks so much for your support. Enjoy the show. This episode is brought to you by S.J. Childs Books for Children. Visit sjchilds.org today to check out their special needs book collection. Teach inclusion and neurodiversity in this special 7-book collection. Get yours today. Sponsors include Blinky Minky Blankets, handmade double-sided Minky blankets, highest quality and craftsmanship, creating your perfect blanket for your loved one as a special forever gift. Code word the mouth for discount today. By Dana Ball Legal Services. Avoid common legal mistakes and protect your small business. Dana makes it affordable for your Utah small business to avoid common legal mistakes with business operations, contracts, and employees. Get more information today at danaballlaw.com. By Moving with Autism, a service for autism families seeking real estate and design services that provide support for their child's development and family lifestyle. Natalie Castro is a Utah autism real estate specialist and autism sibling whose mission is to connect families to community support with sensory-friendly designs and relocation services. By Elevation Chiropractic Center. Get started on your path to full health. Elevation Chiropractic Center uses the upper cervical chiropractic technique to get results by identifying and solving the root issues of your medical condition quickly and safely. Elevation Chiropractic Center, Salt Lake City, Utah. This story is brought to you by Water and Body Basics, West Valley City, Utah.
Hi, welcome to the S.J. Childs Show. I'm your host, S.J. Childs, and today I have a special guest. I'm so excited to jump into this conversation, and I really hope I pronounce your name correctly, Dr. Fanike Young. Is that correct? Oh,
that wonderful. Is it. That is it. You did well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. Really looking forward to it. I'm just excited. I'm excited to be here. Great synergy in our space. So yeah. I am ready. I think we're going to do some great things in this power podcast that we're about to record.
Agreed. Now let's just get, started at the very beginning. Let's get an introduction and tell us why, what you're doing and kind of what you have coming up.
Thank you. So I am a licensed trauma therapist, a transformational trauma coach, a doctor of behavioral health, and a master Reiki practitioner. And what I do in essence is I take all of those things, put them all together, and help my women entrepreneur clients to achieve that optimal healing. And so my doctorate in behavioral health focuses on integrated care and treating the whole person. And so that's how I work. So whenever people come to me and they're like, yeah, I want therapy. And I'm like, okay, yes, we can do therapy, but I work best if we're treating the whole person. So I'm coming into a space now where I'm realizing that I'm not a conventional therapist. I'm not one to say, hey, let's just, let's talk about it. Let's process. There are activities, there are things that we need to do. I am one that, if you come into my office and I feel like, you're all over the place or something's going on with you, I'm like, okay, well, let's go downstairs. There's a lake in the back of my office. Let's take our shoes off. Let's walk around. Let's get grounded. Let's, let's sit out here for a minute. Let's meditate outside. So that's kind of how I work. And I'm also an intuit. So I use a lot of that, my own spiritual gifts to help guide me when I'm healing others. And so it's not a, one size fits all cookie cutter, this is what you're going to get. So it all depends on the person. And that keeps it exciting.
Absolutely.
And then I recently wrote a book and submitted my manuscript for publication. And the name of my book is What the Fuck is Your Problem? An active worker in healing your trauma. Yeah. And the book centers around my own history of trauma and the things that I've done along the way to help to heal myself. Mm-hmm. And that again goes into a lot of what I do with my clients is I use a lot of the techniques modalities that I use for myself to help heal them. And I try not to tell them do anything that I haven't done myself.
Yeah.
So the book centers around not just my own traumas, but I interview some amazing women that were able to be vulnerable and open up and share some of their own life experiences of when they've, just been introduced to trauma, unfortunately. And it ranges from birth traumas to grief and loss, to infidelity within a marriage, to a parent passing away or being killed. So it ranges. And then they talk about how they were able to overcome it and come out on the other side. So that book will be out at the end of December, early January, winter 2021. Yes. And definitely, I have my beta readers reading right now, and every day I'm getting these comments like, oh my gosh, I'm over here crying and I just want to hug you. And so it's definitely eliciting the response that I was going for, because we all have some type of trauma. Some of us are more in tune with it than others. Some of us have had more complex trauma than others, but we all have some degree of trauma. And so it's just important that we, just heal from it and do everything that we can do on our end to make that happen.
That's so true. And especially now, and it's been a conversation going on, even the families who think that maybe never have had trauma, now they have. Now with this pandemic, everyone has kind of tasted a little bit of taste of what this is like, and having to heal from the isolation and the maybe loss of, a family member unexpectedly, things like this. So yeah, it's definitely a good time to talk about trauma and to talk about healing and put our best foot forward and things like that. And I love that you use all the modalities. I'm a former massage therapist, not a Reiki master, but I've done, love doing Reiki, and completely agree that it takes a whole approach to help someone or yourself through these types of experiences. Whether or not, like you said, it is from birth or childhood, sometimes we don't know until we're in adulthood that we're, having kind of maybe physical manifestations because of these things, and holding on to these things. I'm, from the truth jar here, like certainly going through a few of those things on my own, journey right now. And it's the truth when you start to really dig deep, let go of things. Sometimes that also comes with a sense of presentations in the body. And, luckily I have wonderful relationships, but so I'm able to work through that. But,
and it shows up in so many places. And like I said, a lot of my clients are, women entrepreneurs. And so, they may come in and they're like, well, I able to make the money that I want to make. I can't scale my business. I've been doing this for years and my business isn't growing, or, I'm in business, but in the relationship department, it's sucking. My home life is horrible. When I leave work, my life is horrible. At work, my life is great. And so it shows up in so many different places. It shows up in our finances. We have a lot of limiting beliefs. We have a lot of negative self-thoughts. We have a lot of that static, that noise that sits there and it waits for you to try to be great. And then it comes out, like, who are you? Who are you to try to, do that? And I deal with it myself, like just as recently, I'm like, okay, I want to adapt a coaching model because I have so many people that contact me, especially now with social media, being a thing, people are more aware of who I am. Well, because I'm a therapist, and therapists can only practice with patients or clients in their state, because that's where you're licensed. So whatever state you are licensed in, that's the only place that you can practice. So I'm licensed in Georgia, but I have people that contact me on social media and are referred to me by others. And so I can't practice therapy with them. So I have developed a coaching model that looks at, let's go through all of the different key areas of life to see how trauma is showing up in your life. And, with doing that and explaining, this it's so important, but I also had to take a look at myself because when I had to look at the pricing, when I had to look at, implementing the program, I had all types of self-doubts. Like, can I do this? That imposter syndrome creeped up.
Yeah.
And, are you qualified to do this? Well, the reality of the situation is I've been practicing therapy now for 15, 16 years.
Yes.
Why wouldn't I be qualified?
Exactly.
I have a doctorate in behavioral health. I've taken all of the licensures and trainings and everything that I need. I've treated the people. I've worked with the people. I've had that experience myself. Why wouldn't I realistically be qualified? And so again, it's that negative talk, that static, that noise that creeps in when we're trying to be great. And that's exactly what it is. It shows up, when we get into relationships. And for a lot of people with trauma responses, they get into relationships, things are going well, and they can't believe that things are going well. And so it's like, is this real? If I get too comfortable, if I really start loving this person, if I really start opening my heart, is this person now then going to turn around and break my heart? Are they going to hurt me? And so that fear and that anxiety creeps up. That's a trauma response, and it's from history. It may not be anything that you necessarily went through yourself. It could be something that you've seen in childhood with your parents. It could be something that you witnessed with your grandparents. It could be just something that someone told you, don't trust people. My mom was like that because of her own trauma. She had girls and she told us, don't trust men in relationships. So it caused, I know for myself, and I don't want to speak for my sister, but it caused me for a long time to not be able to open up. And so even when men were saying, I love you, I want to marry you, will you marry me? And I was like, no.
Are you kidding me?
But that was my trauma response. And my husband now, whom I just love and adore so much, because he recognizes when I'm having those trauma responses, because of course I still have them. And that's the thing about it. And that's why I wrote the book. This thing requires you to be an active worker and to be constantly working on it. It's not a one hit and done type of deal. I still have to do affirmations. I still have to assure myself, like, you're in a positive, loving, caring marriage. It is okay to just relax. It's okay if he doesn't answer my call, like every now and then a thought may creep up like, oh, he must be doing something, but that's not even my stuff. That's something that I got from my mom telling me when I was young, don't trust men, where she got from her own trauma, where she got from looking at her parents. You get what I'm saying? And so then it becomes an intergenerational thing that we're passing on and on and on, and we don't recognize it. And a lot of us lack that self-awareness to where we're not even sure, or we don't even know where we have trauma. So to your point, I find that people come and they're like, I don't have trauma. And I'm like, oh, but you do, you do, but you really, really do. And my job is to start there with you. So first, let's identify what that trauma may look like, because it looks different for everyone. And just because you're not having issues in your relationship or with your money, you may be having issues with your health. So you may be a person who turns to food for comfort. You may be you get what I'm saying? So it shows up in so many different ways. You may be someone that's out shopping and spending every dollar that you make because it's comforting when something's happening. That's trauma. That's basic trauma. So, I try to educate others on what it looks like. It may not be, it doesn't necessarily have to be a dramatic episode that happened. It could be something very, very something subtle, something that you saw, something that you heard, something that someone told you, something that, you witnessed and you weren't supposed to. So it shows up in all types of ways.
I agree. Absolutely. And I really like that. I'm going to kind of copy what I heard from this other podcast, but I love, because I'm hearing it now, it's a lot about accountability. And you're showing them accountability. Like, it's not up to anyone else to get you through these things or to help you you have to start lining up your own accountability. And that's hard for some people, isn't it? They do not want to take a look in the mirror and look, in the back and see what's going on.
Very, very much, and that's a coping tool. When people don't take accountability for their actions, I'm learning by, watching my son. I have a 2-year-old, and then I have 2 bonus children that are 12 and 13 from my husband. And my son, who's 13, lives with us. And that's where we are right now. It's a constant drilling of, hey, you have to take accountability for your actions, for the things that you do. When something happens, you don't look outward first, you look inward first, because you can't control the other person. And so if you were not taught that, and you were taught, because for him, it's a coping tool. So when he gets in trouble or we are trying to correct him on something, he looks outward. He doesn't take accountability. Sure. His coping and his defense mechanism, right? And so as adults, we do, some of us do the same thing. And again, it's a coping or defense mechanism. And a lot of it comes where I try to explain to people, you can't truly heal until you take accountability. Because if you're not owning it, how can you change it?
You can't unlearn it. Yeah.
How can you change something that you feel that you don't control? So if you never say, yes, this is something that I do. Yes, I don't like it. Yes, I want to do it. If you never do that, how can you begin to change it? Because you're not owning it. You've put the onus of everything on to someone else. And so how can you change it? Because you can't, again, control other people. And so these are conversations that, again, I'm having with my 13-year-old, but I also have with adults.
Yes, right?
I have conversations with adults all the time.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, and lucky for him that he has this kind of guidance in his life, and, you know, all of your children really. And I feel the same way, like when we give our kids the, you know, the proper guidance that they need, and they're just like, okay, I'm going to be wise about that decision. Like, I'm so proud that they were able to accept what I was saying, take accountability for themselves, you know, and, really only one of them, my 11-year-old has autism. So he's not at the, you know, neurological state to be like kind of accountable. It's hard, you know, it's hard when you go into those kind of things, but at the same time, we have to teach him those boundaries. And so it's a very unique, like strategic way of trying to do the same thing with the challenges that come along with, you know, neurological conditions. And so, I just find it so fascinating and interesting. How does your son, how does he feel about it? Like, is he angry, like that you're trying to help him at first, or do you give him like a piece of, because that really gives kids a little bit of control, which then usually helps in a situation to be like, I have something to hold on to. Okay, I can get through this. It's when it's when they're reaching and there's nothing that it's like out of controlness.
So what I will say is, first, let me, just address your son. The thing to remember is that whether a person has diagnosed neurological processing issues or not, you have to kind of start where they are, and you break down, and your expectations just has to be aligned with that person and who they are and what they do. And so it's definitely something that you can work and train him on. It's just about, restructuring probably the way in which you do it, but you can do it. And so it's like a step by step. He may not necessarily pick it up, as fast as someone else, but he will, if it's just something that you just continue to work with him on. So I definitely want to say that. But for my son, I think what I find with him is that it takes who he also has some processing issues as well. And he's diagnosed with ADHD. And also has processing concerns. So one of the things that I realized with him is I can say something, or my husband and I, we can say something to him or give him a directive, and he may not catch it necessarily the first time. And what I've started doing is just using my own therapy I've used with some of my child clients. And so I may tell them something, and then I'm like, okay, repeat back to me what I just said to you before you walk away. And so then he'll repeat it back, and I'm like, okay. But I also know that sometimes I can't say, do this, do this, do that, do this. I can't give him a whole list of things at a time for him to do, because I'm then setting him up for failure. So it's like, go do this and then come back and see me. And so he'll leave, he'll go do whatever, he'll come back. Okay, now go put your clothes in the laundry. Okay, and then come back and see me. And then he'll come back. Okay, now I need you to clean your room. So if I say to him, okay, I need you to clean your bathroom, wash your clothes, and clean your room, and then I go upstairs, let's say an hour later, he's probably laying on his bed. The
listening
bathroom
to music, yeah, or something.
the bathroom's still dirty. He's laying on the bed, enjoying himself. But
Yeah.
he's washed his clothes maybe, and maybe even cleaned his room. Something gets missing. So what I try to do is I'll tell him something, and sometimes he doesn't want to hear it, because in the moment he when he doesn't take that accountability or own his stuff, I correct them. And of course, no one wants to hear that. Adults don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
So, hey, you're doing it again, and you're not owning your stuff. Okay, so tell me what happened, but tell me from your perspective. Don't tell me what the other person did. And so then can tell me, and then later on he'll come back and he'll say, okay, you were right, and I didn't mean to do that. It just kind of automatically came out like that.
Yeah. And I love that too, because helping them have accountability sets them up for empowering and, self-confidence, and so much self-worth, really. Because when you're seen and heard, and you're not just brushed off, and you're given, like you said, met at their level, and given the patience and time, encouragement, and belief in them that they can do it. That's so important, as probably for your clients, I believe in you. Like, this is something you can do, like you said, giving yourself affirmations to work on. I'm sure that's probably steps that you line out for your clients to do, which are so wonderful. I post an affirmation or a quote every day on my page, just to kind of give everybody else a help step up on their day. And it's such a wonderful response to hear that it helps people, that they take something from it.
Yeah, I think so. One of the key things in my approach is I try to put the healing back into my clients' hands, because as a healthcare professional, I don't want you coming to me for years and years and years.
Yeah.
That I'm being effective, and the way that I know I'm being effective is you take the things that I actually give you, implement them, and then I see progress, or you see progress. That's how I know, okay, I did something right. And so I'm even like restructuring the way that I provide therapy. I want to create packages where it's like, okay, you have to come to me at least 3 times. Because a lot of times what I find is that, people may come one time, and I give so much, during my sessions, that they think, oh, okay, I'm good, because she's giving me like, all these tools. And it's like, okay, we can fix and treat what it is that you came in for, but then there's more. And so like, we need to move beyond that, and we need to go to the next level so that you can elevate. But one of my goals is always to give them the tools, and to empower them and say, you can heal yourself. You can heal yourself. It is, I'm clear, because just going through, like I said, my own trauma, and as a child, and then becoming an adult, and realizing how my trauma was impacting me. And I had to take that and I own it. I remember, 6 years old, being in the bedroom and hearing screams coming from the kitchen. And my sister and I, we jump up and we go into the kitchen, and my dad's kneeling down. My mom's body is laying across the floor. My dad is like banging her head back and forth on the floor. And we're seeing this, and there's blood gushing everywhere. And I'm 6, and I go and I grab a knife, and my sister, who's 10 years old, because she's 4 years older than me, grabs the knife from me. I leave the kitchen, leave out the apartment, go sit on the stairs that goes up to the neighbor's house. My dad emerges from the house, and he says, I'm coming back to get you. And as he's leaving, he's like, I'm coming back to get my daughter, and I'm going to kill you, bitch. And that's what he tells my mom. And again, I'm 6. And my mom, I just remember her getting up, cleaning herself off, putting us to bed. The next day, her sending me to school. And I go to school, and no one knows what I just witnessed the night before with my sister, and I leave school, go to my grandmother's house, because I was a latchkey kid. My mom worked 10 to 12 hours a day. So she was never home when I got home. But this time I get to my grandmother's house, and she's there. And I walk in, and she says, 3 words that changed my whole life. And it was, your dad died. And those were her 3 words to me. And so the last time I saw my dad, he was abusive towards my mom. He told me he was coming back to get me, and then he died. And so just imagine, all of the resentment, confusion, anger, just
unresolved everything.
So from 6 to about, 34, I was like working through all of that. Yeah. And I didn't even realize that it was an issue until I was like 21. That was when I started realizing like, okay, something is wrong, because like I said, like I had issues in relationships, difficulty communicating, I would lash out. My anger, would just take over, when I did become upset, and I didn't understand why. And no one explained it to me. I didn't help. I didn't go see a therapist. My mom didn't put any interventions in place. I don't know if she knew to, just to put that out. She's old school. You don't go to therapy in the life.
Seriously.
You don't bring people into your house. Everything that happens in the house, you keep in the house. Mm-hmm. And like that's old school. And so she didn't know to bring someone in or to send me to someone. It wasn't there. It wasn't a resource in her toolbox. And just going to college, which is what helped me. I took a Psych 101, and they're talking about trauma and PTSD and the mind and storing things. And I was like, okay, so let me look into this.
Let's unpack this.
Hold on. May be helpful. So I'm like, okay, let me start reading and researching. So that's what I did. Mm-hmm. And I remember being in school and then having to decide, like, once I graduated with my bachelor's, what was the next step? And I met someone that was a licensed clinical social worker. And I was like, okay, so what do you do? And she was like, I do therapy. And I was like, okay, you're a social worker, but you do therapy. She's like, yes, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. And I was like, I'm going to get my master's in social work, and I'm going to become a licensed clinical social worker because I want to use everything that I'm learning right now to help myself. Mm-hmm. I want to use it to help other kids because I know there are other kids out there that have dealt with this. But guess what I discovered? There were other adults.
Yes.
And guess what? They didn't get any help either. Yeah. So those children were now adults, and now they were adults with childhood trauma that was never addressed. And so you had a whole bunch of what I had going on, walking around, like anger, resentment, trouble in relationships, trouble communicating with others, trouble, forming those bonds with other people because lack of trust, it was drilled into me, don't trust in relationships. So imagine how many other women are walking around here thinking I can't fall in love because I can't trust in relationships because of childhood trauma. And so, it wasn't until like 34 and I realized that I wanted to be something I had never been, and that was happy. Yeah. I was like, you've never really been happy because you've held on to this anger and resentment, and you have to let it go. And so I really, really started like doing the work. Like I really I dug so far in to doing the work, the meditating, the journaling, the therapy, I did a lot of energy work. So I was getting a lot of Reiki. I was, I changed my eating. I was working out. I was boxing. I was, I was trying to really do it all because when I had tried before, and that wasn't my first effort, but when I had tried before, I was doing everything individually. And I realized that, hold on, if I do everything together, I may yield some different results. And that's what happened. And it was like, okay. And so I had to take that time. And to this day, and I tell my husband, because we look at each other like we were just waiting for each other to get ready. And it's like, I could have never attracted him and stayed together if I hadn't had that moment in my life where I did that intense work. Yeah. And so, I try to, at this stage, share that experience with others, let them know that you can overcome trauma. You can stop the trauma from stopping you. And I understand because I've been there. And but you can overcome it. You can do the work, but you have to decide that you want to do the work. I have so many women that, they sign up for a consultation with me, and which is free. And attached to my consultation form is attached to my consultation when you schedule is a form. And on that form, it's like, okay, what areas of life are you having trouble in? And a lot of them check all of them. And then they don't further the service. And I'm like, okay, but you recognize that this is holding you back.
Yeah.
So at what point do you say, I want to heal, but I also get it. You have to do it when you're ready. And you have to know you're ready because it's not easy. This is not a happy journey. It's not
right.
It's hard work because
definitely
you get into the depths of who you are and really like face that little child, face that person that was, traumatized. You have to face that hurt person to heal yourself. You have to, and that sucks. It sucks. And that's the best way I can put it. and it's hard and you can't explain it to people and it's emotional and you're crying and, pretty and no one wants to go through it no one wants to do it. However, the results on the other side are so worth it.
Yes, absolutely.
Unless you go through that. And so you have to go through that pain. I think a lot of us, we try to avoid it. We try to go around it. We try to, let me just skip the work and I'll just jump in a relationship. Well, guess what? You jump into the relationship and that trauma then shows up in the relationship. Work. You can't have the relationship that you want. You can't make the money that you want. You can't grow your business the way you want it. You can't. And it's because that trauma, it's going to come. And when it comes, it's going to come really, really hard. And it's going to be like, oh, well, I'm here. You didn't get rid of me.
Yeah.
Your relationship.
Face me now.
Now I'm in the decisions that you make. Now I'm in, you can't choose yourself because I'm here. And so like, what are you going to do about it? So it really, really comes to that point where you have to make the decision to heal. It's a decision. You have to be ready. And again, it's not easy. And I understand that, but that's what therapists are for. That's what coaches are for. That support system. That's what we're here for. That's the whole point of us being here. We can't do the work for you, but we can guide you on doing it. And then we can be there to support you as you're going through it.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And before we finish out today, where can we find you? Where is your website and your program? And where can we find this book that's coming out?
Yes. So you can find me on drfanike.com. That's DRF as in Frank, AN as in Nancy, IKE.com. You can also find me across social media at Dr. Fanike and on Clubhouse, Instagram, Facebook. The book will be available everywhere when it comes out.
Yeah, right.
So Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It will also be available through my website. I'm so excited about it. And it's just been so healing for me to write it.
So proud of you.
I made the decision to come out. And what I mean by coming out is I expose like everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I don't expose it and I don't let it out there, I can't heal it. And as long as it's not me, I can't. So, like it's been really, really important in my own healing. And so I hope that everyone really gets something out of it and they're able to heal a part of themselves from reading it as well.
Oh, it sounds so valuable. I'm sure that not only from this conversation, but also from the book, they absolutely will take something from that. So, and even to just begin your healing journey. So please get a hold of Dr. Fanike if you have these types of needs or questions about how to deal with trauma and the ways to go about it. She can coach you and help you through that. And if you're in Georgia, you can go get her assistance. In person. Lucky you. So thank you so much for being here today. It's been an absolute pleasure to get to know you. And I look forward to being in contact with you in the future.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much. Such a pleasure. I love, just speaking to others when it's just such a flow and everything just flows and we just have a good synergy with one another. So thank you so much.
Great minds, right? Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
This episode's sponsors include Blinky Minky Blankets, handmade double-sided minky blankets, highest quality and craftsmanship, creating your perfect blanket for your loved one as a special forever gift. Code word THEMOUTH for discount today. By Dana Ball Legal Services. Avoid common legal mistakes and protect your small business. Dana makes it affordable for your Utah small business to avoid common legal mistakes with business operations, contracts, and employees. Get more information today at danaballlaw.com.
By Moving with Autism, a service for autism families seeking real estate and design services that provide support for their child's development and family lifestyle. Natalie Castro is a Utah autism real estate specialist and autism sibling whose mission is to connect families to community support with sensory-friendly designs and relocation services. By Elevation Chiropractic Center. Get started on your path to full health. Elevation Chiropractic Center uses the upper cervical chiropractic technique to get results by identifying and solving the root issues of your medical condition quickly and safely. Elevation Chiropractic Center, Salt Lake City, Utah.
This story is brought to you by Water and Body Basics, West Valley City, Utah.